We got to save that lake, and that watershed study is the first step in that getting that done. There's one other thing that I've got started, and it will be brought in next summer, and that is what we'll call a centrifugal trap for dirt. We're going to have this big trap. It's going to be put into Middle Lake, and all the water is going to go round and around and around at the bottom, and all of the dirt and the sand and the salt will sit at the bottom, and then once a year they bring in the big vacuum trucks and they take them out. That's what we're doing for Middle Lake, because where Middle Lake goes, Ramsey goes. If we fix Middle Lake, we fix Ramsey. Thank you.
Thank you. I will admit that I have not had the opportunity to look at the watershed study yet, but I do understand that there is a very hefty cost to scrubbing the effluent that goes into Ramsey Lake. Our road engineers tell us that their responsibility ends at the pipe where the water drains into the lake. What happens now, I don't know. What happens from that water going into Ramsey Lake, I don't know. So I know the cost is $25 million to install the scrubbers that need to go and clean our water. And the environment is very much on the top of my agenda, and I will be looking at that watershed study and studying your motion, Mr. Kett.
Glad to hear.
We did hear a lot about blue-green algae last year. We heard a lot about it the year before. In fact, as we're moving forward, we continue to hear more and more about it. My son loves swimming in Ramsey Lake. He loves Moonlight Beach. But when I read in the newspaper about the blue-green algae, you know what I don't read? How homes, how lawns, and how people treat their homes and how that runs directly into the lake is actually the driving force behind blue-green algae. It's not just simply ice or salt rather that's come from the streets. It is chemicals that we use in our everyday lives. And we don't hear anything about that in the education coming from the city. We don't hear anything about that coming from the news reports. And quite frankly, that means that we are not getting the right information. We need the right information, which will come through the study that Mr. Kett started. But we need that information. We need to know how important it is to protect our natural environment. This city was beautified after being known as the moon. It's no longer the moon. Let's not go backwards. Let's go forward. Thank you.
All right, moving right along. Here's a thought. Should I go with it? Oh, I'm saving this for later. It's a good one. Candidates, let's get your stance on the, some call it the HCI, the Healthy Communities Initiative, and some people call it the slush fund. It means a lot to a lot of small community groups and organizations, but it's got a bit of a bad name right now. What do we do? Wipe it out? We could save a couple of $1 million over 4 years term of office. What's your stance on the HCI, commonly known as the slush fund?
It's simple. It's scrap it. That's my thought, and it should be kept in the budget though with control. But councillors shouldn't have access to it on their own. Thank you.
It started off with good intentions, and then it turned into something that just became much larger than it actually should have been. And what I feel is that, yes, the policy should be scrapped. And honestly, I think it's about time that we take a look at participatory budgeting for the community funds that we actually have. Because those projects are still important. It's just the amount of influence that councillors have on the process. And there's actually a document that was published a few years ago, and I really encourage you to find it. It's called The Fourth Wall. It has a set of policy changes that it recommends down in Toronto. A lot of them are actually applicable here in Sudbury, and a set of them involve participatory budgetary techniques, which involve the community actually deciding what is going on in their community, what projects get completed with those funds.
Well, I think it's an easy fund to put down. When I came on council 4 years ago, I'd never heard of it, didn't know what it was. And when I saw it, I wasn't too keen on the way it was administrated. And what I did was I asked staff for a complete revamping of the HCI funds, and that happened. Right now, for example, as a councillor, you can't spend any money unless it's spent on city property, nothing else. If a group comes to you for a fund up to $1,000, they have to have a bank account, it has to be audited. It's very, very strict. But I'll tell you what happened. The HCI fund allowed the dog park to happen. There's no way that dog park would happen without HCI. It wouldn't have happened. And if you go down 2nd Avenue South and you look at that big play structure down there, $50,000 of public money brought 32 of private money. So my money levered another $32,000 for that park. And the people of the area were very proud of their accomplishment. So if you do it right, it can be a good thing. If you don't do it right, you're going to be in big trouble. So as a councillor, you have to take the responsibility of that. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe everyone knows what my position is on the slush fund. I'm totally against this $200,000 pot of money. I believe that it should be just put back into the general account. Anybody can cut a check if they've got $50,000 in their jeans. So while not every councillor has abused the fund, there have been abuses, and I have found it unconscionable that their fellow councillors did not point this out, but allowed it to happen. It has increased the bureaucracy, and I'd like to see the elimination of this fund. I think there are many ways that we can get things done in the ward through imagination and innovation, through tapping the private sector and working with staff. Thank you.
It's funny that we call it the slush fund. It doesn't do a very good job of cleaning the slush and snow from our streets in the winter, does it? One thing I've heard loud and clear in the last 4 years, get rid of the slush fund. And who's been saying that? You've been saying that. What is my job? To represent you. The HCI fund did start with good intentions. And as we've seen and as we all know, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. This money is not mine. It does not belong to any one single councillor. If we eradicate it, how do community projects move forward? How do they get the funding? Are they going to have to line up at City Hall and go through red tape and through bureaucracy? That's not going to make things easier. Making a small community group pay for thousands of dollars in an audit every year to prove that they need a little bit of money to plant some flowers or to beautify their community, layers and layers of bureaucracy. And it detaches the community from the access to what they need. Absolutely, councillors should not have their hands on it. You should. What should it look like? You should help us figure that out. But we need to go in knowing it is not our money, it is your money, and it is to beautify your backyard. Thank you.
I've got time for a couple more questions for you. And so let's do a little blue sky thinking now, because we've talked about roads and our crumbling infrastructure and so on. And we could do that ad infinitum, but let's look at even bigger picture, because we know that some people keep talking about the need to build that brand new Sudbury Arena or build that arts and convention center in Sudbury. What's your stand on that? Do we need that? Which? Either? None?
Thank you, Peter. I think I'm for a new arena, but a public-private partnership. I think that's the way to go.
Just a little bit of background. I worked through the offices of the Sudbury Community Foundation over the past little while, and included in that organization was the Sudbury Synergy Project, which is in charge of looking over the details of the multi-purpose complex that's being proposed. And to be honest, I think that there's a lot of opportunities that can be based off of that. If we had a convention center / hotel that was connected to an arena that had the capacity to host not only a convention but a theater event or a musical concert, I think that the purpose of it would serve all of our needs and hopefully cut down on the amount of money that we need to spend on a whole ton of different projects. We don't need 11 different projects when we can build just one. And honestly, the public-private partnership idea is being pursued. There's about 60 businesses that are being consulted with this project, and I wholeheartedly recommend taking a look into it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I wish we had an hour to talk about this, because I get so excited to hear about what we could be doing. We are the northeastern capital of Ontario. And we need to get ourselves moving on this. If you could just go online sometime to look at what they did in St. John's, Newfoundland. There they have a hotel, which is attached to an arena, which is attached to a convention center, which includes the arts center, all in one big building. So when they have a big convention come in town, they press a button and the first 20 rows of the arena they just disappear. And they can sit 3,000 people for dinner at that convention center. That convention center makes St. John's all kinds of money. This is what we need to do. We really want to be in the big times. We want to be the leader of Northeastern Ontario. We need that convention center. We need that OHL arena all in one building. I hope we can do it. Public partnership, private partnerships, sure, I'll go for that.
Thank you. I also believe that we need an OHL arena. This is a hockey town. This is Northern Ontario. And I think it's time that we have that facility. As far as the convention center goes, I'd like to see that as a part of a hotel that would be privately owned. I don't want to be spending money on that. They're very hard to maintain, and they would need the assistance of having a hotel there that would finance that. In terms of the art gallery, the new art gallery for Sudbury, they don't want the city's help. They want to do it on their own. They have private investors. And the Synergy project, I haven't seen, I'm not convinced that that is the way to go for us at this point. One of the things that we have to do is get all of our groups together because everyone is operating in silos. It's very difficult to get everybody together to think about one project. But I hope all of these will be in our downtown. Thank you.
What an embarrassing day it was last year when we woke up and read in the newspapers about our canceled hockey game because of fog. Maybe that's because our city has been living in the fog for too long, putting on band-aid solutions to serious problems. We can't, and we've tried, but we have not been successful in attracting private partnership to help fund these initiatives, to help build a new arena, to get a convention center here, to promote our arts and culture. And when we talk about arts and culture, that's something I tend to get very passionate about because as a volunteer for Summerfest and a member of that board, I've seen just how this city's red tape stifles arts and culture, kills it at the ground. Because in fact, that's something, sports, recreation, arts and culture, that comes from you folks, that comes from the grassroots in this community. And we need to develop a city hall that has bureaucracy that supports that, doesn't stifle it. Bureaucracy is always going to exist, but it has to be collaborative with the folks that are trying to bring these wonderful initiatives to our community. We need private partnership if we want to build these things, and that is what I will help Tom Davies Square be better to establish.
Well, this leads to our final question, and we seem to have some consensus here. So if we agree that we need a new OHL-style arena, possibly rolled into a great convention and arts and culture center, then surely we don't need a casino, or do we? Do we need a casino, and where are we going to put it?
It's simple. No, we don't need a casino. And we have Sudbury Downs. I think that's a private enterprise that should be more supported, and definitely no casino in Sudbury.
I'm in agreement. The business case has not been made, and I, when you take a look at the studies that have gone into casinos, it's not really to our benefit to increase the gambling that we have in our city. It doesn't really make sense at this point to build a casino in Sudbury or really in any northern community for that matter.
When I heard that the Ontario government was going to put 27 casinos in Ontario, I was just so upset. Can you imagine that? Talk about a terrible, terrible, unconscionable way of raising money. No, I'm not interested in a casino. Thank you very much.
I think that, this question is funny because we do have a casino. We do have a casino. And we keep saying, do we want a casino? We have one, And I'm quite happy to see it stay there. I don't want to see a casino downtown. It does not fit in with what our downtown plan is, with the School of Architecture, Arts and Culture. So it simply doesn't fit in, and I don't want to see a casino downtown. Now, once they decide on who the provider, once the province decides on who the provider is, my understanding is that they will remain out in the Azilda location until they get a feel for the community, and then they will decide what they're going to do. And I don't know how much say we're going to have in it, to tell you the truth. Thank you.
I think for all of us up here, answering this question is quite the gamble to begin with. Ms. Reynolds is right. We already have a casino. We already have a gaming location. How's it doing? Has it benefited the horse racing industry? Does it still support it? Does the provincial government need to alter it? That's not for me to decide. I'm looking to run for municipal leadership. I also don't see a casino coming to the city. Well, I do see it as the Trojan horse, and we've seen the excitement generated at the city level when they thought, ooh, a convention center. Well, that's wonderful. That gets us off the hook for one thing, but it puts us on a hook for another. And that's just consistent with the silo thinking that we've had in our leadership over the last number of years. I don't think we need a casino downtown. I don't think it's going to provide any direct benefit. Where the heck are we going to put a casino downtown? A couple of minutes ago we were talking about the arena downtown. Are we just going to continue to pave it all? These things need to be thought about. They need to be considered when you think of the entire city as a whole, morally, socially, and economically. And really, there's no evidence to provide to me that it is a good idea to put a casino in the city of Greater Sudbury. Thank you.
Thanks again to all of our candidates here this evening. It's time to wrap it up now, ladies and gentlemen, and much as we began, we shall end the evening with an opportunity for you to make a summation and some concluding remarks. If you wouldn't mind saving me a few steps, maybe I'll start with you, Chris, and you can pass the baton.
Have a seat, Peter. Well, as I said earlier, you folks have a big decision to make. There are 5 individuals up here. We all have different backgrounds, we all have different talents, and we all have different experience. But you know what you've been looking for, and we